All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone who is joining us here today. If you're here to learn about the latest in home design and marketing approaches for aging in place, you've absolutely joined the right Zoom. And if not, well, the cabin doors have been closed and we've been cleared for takeoff, so I guess you're in for the ride now. We'll do more formal introductions here shortly, but just for the moment, know that my name is Brian, and along with Lou Simon here, we'll be your guides through today's presentation. So with that said, let's go ahead and start that flight. Now, before we dive into any details or data, I recognize that the idea of aging in place may be new to some folks on the line today. So what does it mean to age in place? Well, we thought Healthline's definition for aging in place was a good one. Aging in place means choosing to stay in your home with family, friends, and neighbors instead of moving to a residential facility designed to support long-term care as you grow older. The goal for aging in place, helping seniors maintain their independence for as long as possible. Or to put it a little bit more simply, aging in place is less shady pines, ma, and more thank you for being a friend. Any other Golden Girls fans here? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We'll keep going. Of course, one of the biggest challenges with aging in place is that we need different types of support as we age. That includes how our homes are designed. Something as simple as a bathtub, maybe a staircase, well, that can become a risk as our mobility and our agility decline. And as the biggest enemy of independence as we age is an accident that could have been prevented with different design decisions, we want to make sure that at the end of the day, we don't end up on the other side of a Life Alert commercial.
Well, that brings us to our second key question. What is aging in place design? Well, the short answer is that aging in place design is any modification made to a home to make it safer, more accessible to those wishing to remain in independent living as they age. In fact, aging in place isn't a new concept at all. It's a subset of what's called universal design. The National Association of Home Builders defines universal design as the design of products, environments to be usable by all people to the greatest extent possible without the need for adaptation or specialized design. So what does that look like in practice? Well, it's the things like having a one-story living where stairs aren't an issue, no step entries, wide doorways and hallways that can be accommodating to durable medical equipment and assistive tools like wheelchairs and walkers. Even things like non-slip surfaces on bathtubs count as part of universal design. So this design principle is really all about creating a home environment with an eye towards long, safe, independent future. Now for the big question. As professionals in the home improvement industry, why do we need to pay close attention to the aging in place design? Why is it important to us? Well, it turns out there are several reasons. And I'll turn it to Brian now to talk to a few of those.
Thanks, Lou. Well, the first major reason for aging in place design and the way that needs to matter to us is that we're in the midst of the largest boom of those aging into senior years in the history of the United States. In fact, as you can see here, by 2034, the US Census Bureau estimates that the total population that are going to be age 65 plus is going to outnumber the population of those under 18. That's 77 million adults. And of course, of those 77 million adults, more than 95% say that they intend to be aging in place for as long as possible. I don't know about you, Lou, but that's kind of a staggering number of people whose homes are about to become the focal point for a new wave of renovation and remodeling needs. Of course, we can think about this demographic tsunami that's heading straight for our industry, but the Census Bureau also noted in that same study that only about 10% of homes are actually ready for their homeowners' new journey of aging in place. That means that there's tens of millions of homes that are going to need significant modifications over the next 10 years in order to properly adapt them to the needs of their occupants. The bare minimum that defines that standard? Well, first, homes need to have a step-free entryway through at least one clear path to the house. Second, an accessible bathroom and bedroom on a ground level floor to avoid the use of stairs. And third, at least one modification completed in a bathroom space. That, of course, to make it more accessible to an aging in place occupant. Now, no matter the state of any individual home, it's clear that of those approaching their aging in place years, they're going to realize that desire to remain in their homes independently. If that's going to happen, well, there's going to need to be a significant and probably immediate push towards preparing those homes for the future. One last reason here. Well, so it's important that we recognize the magnitude, of course, of this opportunity for aging in place within the home improvement market. But according to a study on the care economy that was done in 2021 by the holding company with Pivotal Ventures, the aging in place market, it's already estimated to be worth more than 200 billion, that's with a B, $200 billion. And there's an aggressive compound annual growth rate of 13% with that. Now, I want to contrast that real fast with the total home renovation and remodel market, which is estimated by Grandview Research to be worth over $500 billion today, but it's only going to be growing at a rate of about 4% or so a year. Now, of course, with the aging in place market, that includes more than just home renovation. There's durable medical equipment, there's banking needs, there's others who are servicing that space. But I think we can say that whether that growth in the field holds steady or not, the reality for us is that aging in place as a market and the home improvement industry's chunk of that market, it's going to represent a significant opportunity for revenue growth in the future as manufacturers, designers, contractors, and more professionals like us help meet that exponential need of our aging population. So think about it this way, with all of the need meeting all of the opportunity in these next few critical years, the big question for all of us is how do we move forward to reach aging in place audiences with what they need, in the ways they need it, with the messages that they want to hear? And answering those questions, well, that's exactly why we're here today. Okay, so I've whet your appetite, hopefully, for the potential of the aging in place market, but I'm going to pause this here just for a second and we'll do some more formal quick introductions. My name, of course, is Brian G. I'm head of strategy and research here at Simon Myers.
Hello, all. I'm Lou Simon, founder and principal of Simon Myers. We work with home improvement clients like LG, AZEK, and Delta Faucet Company, and also brands like Hammermill and Uni Brands to provide eye-opening data and heart-stirring creative. So together, we're excited to share with you the results of this national survey we deployed earlier this year, along with 5 key takeaways for all of us who are in the trenches of the home improvement industry. So let's dive back in and get to the study and the results. So towards the beginning of the year, we launched a 15-minute national online quantitative survey that combined a whole range of questions surrounding aging in place. Instead of getting a single view on aging in place, we wanted to get 3 unique perspectives on the place in the market. So we divided the survey into 3 groups: caregivers, people who are currently aging in place, and those who are about to age in place within the next 10 years. Now, a quick Google search will show that there are no shortage of studies that have been done in the past few years about aging in place market. So it's fair to ask, what's unique about this study and why would it matter to you? Well, while many studies have been done on the market itself, few have looked at the intersection of aging in place home design through the lens of 3 major trends, which we're all very familiar with: smart home technology, at-home wellness, and sustainability. And none have examined the contrast between how caregivers and aging in place persons view those core areas for aging in place design. So we find our 5 ways forward. We dove into the data to uncover the top concerns, products, features, and needs that these segments are looking for when investing in aging in place products in each of these 3 categories.
Now, before we get into the meat of smart home tech, at-home wellness, and sustainability, there were some fast facts we learned in our study that we think are important for industry professionals like you to keep in mind as we look to make more informed decisions and strategies. So when you think of caregivers, you may picture someone in their 50s or maybe their early 60s taking care of an elderly parent. But our first fast fact actually touches on a reality that more than half of the US caregivers, they're under the age of 44 right now. That means that our approach to caregivers needs to feel as relevant to young Gen X and millennial audiences as it does to older demographics. On the flip side of that, less than half of people planning to age in place do so before the age of 65. In a lot of circumstances, that means we're going to be talking to similarly aged homeowners, but one group is going to already consider themselves to be settled and doing the aging in place, while the other group is still in the process of preparing. Fast fact number two, and this could be a little bit surprising here, but nearly half of our respondents in the study who are currently aging in place are doing so without the assistance of a spouse or partner, children, or another family member. Now, for those that do have someone by, spouses, children, and other relatives are expected, and they are the ones who are doing that assistance for those who are aging in place. But this means that we need to consider that many of the people that our messaging is reaching, well, they're not going to necessarily have a significant source of assistance available to them to do even the most simple home modifications, or even plan maybe for some of those modifications and deal with a lot of those details. Fast fact number three, and we'll dive into a lot more detail on this third point here as we get deeper into the data a little bit later on. But right up front, we saw a wide gap between those who cared about and invested in wellness modifications and features for aging in place in particular, compared to those who invested in smart home technology and sustainability as part of their aging in place plan. Now, that difference was particularly significant when we looked at both current and future aging in place persons compared to caregivers. And that indicates, at least to us, that caregivers may play a much bigger role in the adoption of both smart home technology and sustainability compared to those who are actually doing the aging in place themselves. And our fourth and final fast fact, well, bathroom modifications, if there was any question, they're by far the most widely adopted renovations performed across segments for aging in place design. Whether it's something as small as a grab bar, or maybe it's something as big as a no-step bathtub or a walk-in bathtub, the bathroom is the largest area of concern for aging in place. And of course, it's the first place people look to secure in their aging in place journey. In fact, according to a study done in 2023 by our friends over at House, aging in place modifications for bathrooms will only continue to grow as the single leading need-based renovation cause for homeowners. Bottom line, at least for me, well, this is a category that's worth paying attention to, and it's only going to grow exponentially. So let's dive into the three big trend areas that we evaluated in our study and get you to your 5 key takeaways that help you move forward with aging in place audiences. First up, smart home technology. So we all know that smart home technology is becoming very quickly integrated into every aspect of our home life. You've got smart speakers, you've got smart lighting, smart TVs, smart appliances. You could almost say that within the home improvement industry today, smart has become much more of just a given, not even a trend, right? But what we're only now beginning to start to understand is the role that all of this smart home technology is integrating into one of the most, you could say resistant classes of people to technology adoption. And that, of course, is seniors who are aging in place. Let's go ahead and take a little bit of a closer look at that. Now, right off the bat, we saw a critical divergence between key aging in place audiences. When we asked how important smart home technology is to their respective aging in place journeys, caregivers were far more likely to see it as an extremely important than those who are currently aging in place. Take a look there, 76% to 24%, right? In fact, only a third of those currently aging in place believed that smart home technology played a vital role in their ability to remain in their homes for the long term. Now, I don't know about you, but that gap feels pretty significant to home improvement marketers for a couple of different reasons. First, it reinforces the generational divide that there is when it comes to technology adoption, and particularly when it comes to integrating technology into the home. But maybe this is even more important. It shows us the importance of directing our smart home technology marketing efforts primarily to caregivers. That includes highlighting product features, maybe benefits, use cases, all of the things that would be meaningful to those who are responsible for the care of another person. Their loved one might not be able to understand that connection between innovation and continued independence, but the caregiver absolutely sees themselves as that bridge to ensure their aging in place person is set up for both safety and longevity in their home.
So let me add a little color here. Of course, it's one thing to hear this from us. It's another to hear it from the people living this reality day in and day out. So here's what a couple of our respondents had to say about the role of smart home technology and their plan for their loved ones' continued independence. Smart technology helps the person I'm caring for feel like they still have some control over their life. They don't have to rely on me for everything. They turn on the lights with smart technology, keep track of their medication times and dosage, even their doctor's appointments and showering, all with the help of smart tech. And the second one, the main factor is their safety and comfort, because I like that she always feels good and supported by me.
You know, it's so interesting, Lou. It's really interesting to hear this in the voice of our respondents and not just be numbers, right? It really brings it to life at the end of the day.
Very much so.
I hope you see too that, the difference is just as clear when we do get into those details of even the types of smart home technologies our participants are planning on incorporating into their aging in place strategies. Now, I know this is an eyesore here, so don't bother trying to squint and look through all of the different lines here. But what I do want you to pay attention to is all of those yellow lines, right? They're all kind of like twice as long as the gray or the blue ones, right? Well, the yellow lines there, those are our caregivers. And what this shows us is that they anticipate utilizing smart home technology on behalf of their aging in place person at nearly twice the rate or more of the aging in place person themselves. There is, of course, one group that, or one technology that all groups are actually agreeing is going to play a significant role in future independence. It's right there at the top. I don't know that this is going to be a surprise, but it's smartphones and tablets. So smartphones and tablets are nearly ubiquitous in our lives today, right? But it's clear that even for those who might reject or not understand other forms of technology adoption, they still see these devices as a core part of their ability to remain in their homes over time. Another potential implication for us, well, these devices can serve as a communications bridge to actually drive the adoption of other smart home technologies they would otherwise be, you could say, less than enthusiastic about, right, Lou?
Yeah. Yeah. Brian, there's one other thing that struck me. It was that the home security devices like video doorbells, security alert systems, they ranked highly amongst all audiences as well. So that was another one that stood out. Perhaps that's because they're ensuring a higher level peace of mind for homeowners and caregivers alike. So that one stood out. Where audience diverged, somewhat were on the importance of personal safety devices. This includes medical alert systems, fall detect systems, and smart bed sensors. There was divergence in those categories.
Yeah, that's really interesting to kind of see some of that divergence in who's adopting what at any given point.
Mhm.
The thing that stood out to me last year, I guess you could see, is that there are far more caregivers who see a role for more conventional smart home devices. Think things like smart lighting, smart locks, appliances, even robotic vacuums than their aging in place counterparts, even when concerns about things like cleaning routines and simplicity of, accessing a light bulb are maybe more of a concern to them. What does that imply to me, at least? Well, it seems to say that we have more work to do in explaining and demonstrating the benefits of these more, I guess you could call them convenience-based smart home devices. And that work needs to be done particularly amongst aging in place persons. So all of this leads us to our first couple of ways forward here. And what we want to do here is we want to get really practical about the implications for those of us in the industry on the ground doing this work day in and day out. Our first way forward is that when it comes to smart home technology, especially when it's geared towards aging in place, we're much more likely to get our messages through, successfully at least, when we approach the caregiver, not necessarily those who are doing the aging in place. That means that our primary investments, they probably need to be geared towards reaching that group of folks, those caregivers, with the majority of our messaging and investment. More than that, even, it means that we need to focus on creating messaging that resonates more with caregivers. The ways that various smart home technologies are going to ensure a better quality of life for the person in their care, but also maybe lighten the load of the caregiver themselves. even if it's something as simple as having more peace of mind, speaking in terms of benefits to caregivers is much more likely to move that needle, at least in terms of smart home technology for aging in place, than putting all that effort into reaching the aging in place person directly.
Yeah. Yeah, Brian. But of course, that doesn't mean that we leave the aging in place person out of the equation entirely. We just need to find the right connection point. And through our research, it looks like centering on smartphone connectivity is that spot. While aging in place persons struggle to see the value in smart home devices, the one device we know will be critical to them is their aging in place journey is the smartphone and the tablet. Knowing this can help us shape our messaging by focusing on the smartphone as the center of all that activity. While they might be hesitant to learn new devices, the more we plug and play with those devices with age-in-place persons, the more receptive they'll be. So we want to take advantage of that opportunity and lean towards that chance of driving at least incremental growth in that share of the aging in place market, while also delivering our loved ones the digital support they maintain their independence at home. As a reminder, this is to smart home tech. So as this goes through the other 2 points, we want to keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So interesting, kind of that connection point, right? Being able to maybe center in one device versus needing to go super broad and connecting it all back in.
Mhm.
So we've got one topic down now, and we've only got 2 more to go. Let's turn from smart home technology now, and let's take a look at home wellness. So as we move into our second trend, our study found that differences between the priorities of caregivers and AIP persons, well, they're not necessarily limited to technology adoption. In fact, some of the differences actually run core, or I should say to the very core, of the concern that each group for aging in place has on what their future aging in place is going to look like in practice. So we're going to take a look a little bit more deeply here in a second, but those concerns we're going to see are going to be both practical and emotional.
Mhm.
But at the heart of all of it, there's a desire to ensure that both that physical and emotional well-being of the aging in place person is at the center of every long-term aging in place strategy. So let's go ahead and take a look at that then. Now, when we asked our survey respondents about their top concerns for the future, at least when it comes to aging in place, each group really fascinatingly had a different concern that rose above all of the others. So we're going to take a look at caregivers here first on the screen. Now, caregivers, the top concern for them, highly physical. The current or the future mobility limitations of their aging in place person. For them, that well-being of the aging in place person, it's rooted first and foremost in their ability to navigate their own spaces safely. And those concerns, they're not unfounded. In fact, there was a study that the Delaware Journal of Public Health put out in 2022, and their researchers found that 1/3 of adults over the age of 65, they experience a fall in any single year. That's a mind-blowing number to me. And of all those falls that are happening, 2 out of every 3 occur in or around the home. So it's only natural, I think, for caregivers to see the well-being of their aging in place person as being tied directly to their physical well-being. But what happens next is really interesting because those practical concerns give way to maybe what we'd call more emotional concerns for both the people that are currently aging in place and also for those adults who are planning to age in place in the near future. And amongst those currently aging in place, well, their top concern is feeling like they're a burden on others, and in particular, of course, on their families and their caregivers. Maintaining independence is challenging at any age, but that challenge only increases as our bodies demand more care and more attention from ourselves and from those around us. In a 2023 study that was performed by the National Council on Aging, researchers found that 95% of adults, so only 5% out of that, 95% of adults that are over the age of 60, they've got at least one chronic health condition. And what's more, 79% of the folks over 60 have at least 2 chronic health conditions. And of course, as the complexity of that condition increases, so do the number of necessary interventions required by caregivers. And I think what we're seeing here is that all of that leads our aging in place people to feel like their wellness is tied to not necessarily feeling like a or a burden to those folks that are giving care to them and the folks that are around them. Now, I wouldn't blame you if you thought, maybe the share of concerns was the same between those who were currently aging in place and those planning on it. But what was interesting enough here too is that there was a divergence again with the folks that are planning on aging in place. In fact, for that unique group of folks, loneliness is their top concern as they're looking at these major shifts in their own living conditions. You think about the potential for social and emotional isolation that's, just being in one space might bring about. That's a significant concern. In fact, that same Delaware Journal of Health article also found that 1 in 3 US adults above the age of 45 experience loneliness on a routine basis. And by the time folks reach senior status, 40% of them don't know of any organizations in their local areas that are actually geared towards socialization and community events amongst their peers. That's a staggering number there. We can see why this is such an issue. So I think the way we wrap all this up is to say that each group might have a different chief concern for a future that includes this aging in place component. But all of these concerns revolve around addressing the physical and also the emotional well-being of aging in place persons.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Of course, these aren't just concerns that we saw in the numbers. Our respondents put it in their own words. I'll read just a couple here. From one respondent who is currently aging in place, they said, as my wife and I get older, we're concerned with falling, stairs, and steps to our house. We are thinking about getting a smaller house on ground level with no upstairs. We don't want to become a hassle to our family because of something that we could have prevented. The second one here, and from someone anticipating their future aging in place, I want to age in a familiar place. There is no comfort like the comfort of your own home. I do wonder if I'll be as connected to people, though. Between these two, you can really see how both physical and emotional wellness play a critical role for aging in place.
Absolutely. You can almost feel it, right? As you're hearing them talk.
Very much so.
It's really interesting because I think this mix of physical and emotional needs really came through in interesting ways in our study, particularly when we asked our respondents to rank their single most important wellness feature for aging in place. So if you only had one to pick, what would you choose? Well, maybe unsurprisingly here, based on what we've seen so far, caregivers absolutely reflected that, that critical concern for physical wellness. And they put fall prevention features as the single most valuable wellness feature in their aging in place home design. And interestingly, actually, those who were anticipating their future aging in place as well, they agreed with that. And at least when they had to pick just one feature, fall prevention was also as important to them. But maybe conversely, those who are actually right now doing the aging in place, that priority shifted away from the physical need of fall prevention to something far more emotionally satisfying, access to some form of nature. Gardens, plants, green spaces. We had nearly 1 in 3 respondents tell us that above all other features, if they could only choose one, that ability to connect with nature was the most valuable feature for their own aging in place strategy. With a lot more practical concerns like fall prevention going into more of a second place position. Now, as I think about that, one takeaway we posit, well, as a person moves from planning on their caregiving into their own personal aging in place future, that sense of wellness shifts. And this could be a subtle shift, right? But it shifts more towards forms of emotional wellness than physical concerns. Now, I don't mean, of course, that physical concerns disappear. We're not saying that, but that sense of being able to connect with things that are, constructive, the things that are beautiful, things that are engaging, it almost like supplants or pushes down the more monotonous drone of just the only ever addressing fears or concerns or, the inevitabilities of future limitations.
Yeah. Brian, this one resonates with me. I think you can see how this might come down to a bit of tone of voice as we speak to these audiences. And personally, I'm an avid gardener. So as I look at this thinking, all right, years down the line when I'm aging in place, to be able to continue to garden and do that and do these outdoor activities, that would certainly be something, I would want and bring me joy. So I get this. This makes a lot of sense.
I'm glad you do, because the gardens aren't for me, but I could see absolutely a place. It's a rule. So looking a little bit more broadly here at wellness features, maybe we take that limitation off, right? You don't have to list a single one here now. We want to hear what you would have when you had the option to choose everything. So when we gave folks the choice to choose multiple options here, we see a lot more distinctions between the needs of caregivers and the needs of those who are actually doing the aging in place. Now, fall prevention features, of course, ranked highly across all audiences, but we noticed immediately that both access to nature and lighting modifications were more valuable to both current and future aging in place persons than to their caregiver counterparts. In fact, access to nature rose to the top of both of those specific audiences. Maybe that shows us there that there's a little bit of an overlooked area of opportunity for caregivers to lean in a little bit more and consider those positive emotional needs of the people that are in their care as it's expressed through their home design and that access to being able to be around nature. Of course, as home improvement marketers too, I think that insight also maybe invites us to ask how our own products, how our own services might better connect the inside of the home to the outside. And that could mean, bringing nature indoors more, or maybe extending an interior space back outside in a way that's both safe and accessible for aging in place persons. Whatever the case is, I think we need to keep in mind that we need to be highlighting throughout all of this those positive effects, right? That kind of positive emotional component of things like biophilic design, that garden or that green design, and products that might help a person's emotional well-being and mental health as much as their physical self. Now, lighting modifications was another area where there seemed to be some sort of disconnect between caregivers and those aging in place. Particularly amongst those who are aging in place, that importance of bringing more light into a space, that actually looks like it's a critical concern. I know it's hard to see in this chart right now, but that concern for them actually rose above most of the other features like accessible showers and bath benches and even smart home health systems. Now, what that tells me at least is that it's a wellness concern that goes, you could say, maybe under noticed by caregivers and also by those who are actually planning to age in place right now. And that means there's this kind of unique opportunity almost, right? For designers, contractors, architects, builders, we all need to be discussing the importance of lighting with our aging in place clients. And for manufacturers in particular, to help educate their influencer partners, those same groups, right, on the right types of products and maybe the right approaches then for meeting those needs that are, as unique as this aging in place audience is.
Yeah. Yeah. Finally, we noticed a handful of areas where caregivers and those currently aging in place valued wellness features more than their future and aging in place counterparts. So again, indicating opportunities for marketing professionals to consider how we can better equip industry pros with the information they need to educate their clients on certain features they may not necessarily have high on their radar. These include therapeutic home features like accessible bathing spaces, universal home design features like wider doorways and hallways, practical ergonomic design features like lower counter heights. There's so many things that make up this wellness aspect.
No, absolutely. So now that we've looked at, the wellness component, what do we take away as we as marketers focus on wellness in aging in place? Okay, well, first, I think we need to make sure that we're tailoring our messaging to meet both the physical and the emotional concerns of our whole range of aging in place audiences. For caregivers, that means we should probably spend a little bit more time addressing those practical physical concerns that our products and services address on behalf of the aging in place persons that are in their care. And while, of course, we don't want to sacrifice necessarily messaging on physical well-being for our aging in place audiences, we really do need to pay a little bit more attention to the ways that we can infuse our marketing with more emotional benefits. Think like those that are going to help assure them of that, that sense of well-being as a whole person is what we have in mind, right? All in ways, of course, too, that feel positive and constructive, and to Lou's point, not necessarily fear-based. They
Yeah.
want those kinds of messaging.
Yeah, very much so. And secondly, we have multiple opportunities to educate our range of audiences, both on the consumer side as well as the builders, installers, architects, other industry pros. As we saw a moment ago, those are opportunities to help our aging in place segments better understand how to address current needs, while at the same time we educate our industry partners on how to best help their clients anticipate future needs that may not be on their radar.
Absolutely. Well, we've looked at two of those three key areas of our study, and we've addressed, some key trends. We've talked about a lot of takeaways for both smart home technology and wellness. But that leaves us with our third prong. And as we saw earlier on, this prong, well, it's one of the areas that ranked lowest in terms of priority across all of our aging in place segments. So to me, at least, that begs the question, is there even a place for sustainability within the aging in place discussion, right? And if there is, well, how might we approach the topic of sustainability with aging in place audiences, whether in the products we develop or the marketing messages we put out? Now, I don't want to spoil the end before we finish, but we do believe that the research, at least, it draws some clear pathways for us to incorporate sustainability into the aging in place discussion. Let's take a look at how here. So, up front, we saw a stark contrast compared to wellness, and I don't think there's any denying that, right? Vast majority of each audience segment saw how important wellness was. With sustainability, that number drops pretty dramatically, right? I don't think we're going to deny that. In fact, caregivers were the biggest ones here with sustainability. About 2 in 3 caregivers or so saw sustainability and that eco-friendly design being, either very or extremely important as part of a successful aging in place strategy. And that absolutely makes caregivers the most receptive audience to outreach on that kind of topic. But their counterparts, I don't think there's any hiding it. They're a lot more skeptical on the prospect, right? And I think that really exposes a challenge, but might also bring a bit of an opportunity for industry professionals like us. So the challenge first, of course, can we even really move that needle enough to drive aging in place consumers towards sustainable choices at the same level as caregivers? But maybe on the flip side, the opportunity, right? We've got an opportunity to create positive impact for the planet and for our bottom lines, maybe too. And that could just come through gaining even incremental share through the adoption of sustainable products.
Yeah, to help us find those needle moving opportunities, we look to our respondents to set us on the right path. This one's, a little bit of a different way through. One person currently aging in place told us we have low energy heating and cooling, including hot water. They help us keep costs down. I built this house as energy efficient as possible for that reason. The second one here, and a caregiver talked about their own eco-friendly practices with the person they care for, saying, we recycle plastic containers and paper products to help the planet. It makes us feel like we're making a contribution to the sustainability of the planet. The trip outside to the compost pile to dispose of kitchen scraps gets us outdoors all year long for fresh air and exercise. So that's another plus. Pause there. I don't know about you, but a couple keywords really jumped out at me. In the first quote, we hear about energy efficiency and cost savings. So that's important phrases, both of which are clear motivations. And the second, recycling, composting a garden, lead to some exercise. So a benefit there, a real feast of emotional and physical motivators. But these are motivations really ripe for your brand. So I'll turn it back to Brian to talk through that next part.
So interesting to hear those keywords play into that, right? I think the answer to Lou's question, though, is that absolutely that data sure looks like there's a place for it there. In fact, the top 3 most valuable home design features that we saw for sustainability, they echo the sentiments that we just heard in those quotes from our participants. And in that top spot, of course, we see energy efficient features, right? And that could be appliances, lighting, HVAC, really the whole kit and caboodle. At least for our segment here, who are using some form of eco-friendly practice already in their home design, energy efficiency took that top spot as the most valuable of those features. In fact, our respondents told us that concerns about the costs of aging in place, well, they were on their mind frequently. Maybe not the top concern, but certainly still a concern. And ensuring that that hard-earned savings that they built up over all that time can stretch for as long as possible is an essential part of that aging in place strategy. Now, those low barrier to entry energy efficient things, right? Appliances, cooktops, whatever the case is, that take that top spot. There's a big difference when you compare that to things like eco-friendly building materials. Think about the things that would be involved in a lot more big projects, VOC paints and sustainable flooring, big home projects. Those not even on the radar for aging in place persons, be it the cost of the actual thing itself or the kind of lack of return line back to their budget, whatever the case is for aging in place persons. It's really more in those low barrier to entry components that they see that value. Now, more altruistically here, but equally low barrier to entry, reducing waste, recycling, composting, all of that seems to be something that aging in place persons are absolutely happy to participate in. And as we saw from that earlier quote, it seems to have some side benefits too, right? Like getting out and being able to do physical activity while you're also helping the planet. And that, of course, fits hand in glove with our third, which is green features. And I don't know that we're going to be surprised by that, considering what we saw in the wellness section there. But I think incorporating more green spaces into the aging in place strategy, it's a triple win. You've got physical health, emotional wellness, even taking care of the planet. So that could be anything from indoor plants to outdoor and community gardens. More, as we go green when we age, there's a lot more benefits we experience across the board.
Yeah, Brian, to your last point on green spaces, coupled with the fear of social isolation, not all these activities need to be done alone either. That takes us outside the home and into the community. Many local communities offer programs, events, and activities that give age-in-place people the opportunity to experience these activities together. If issues of loneliness are as pervasive as we age, then the more we can design our own spaces and our own lives to be in community with others, the better off we will be. And it's an added bonus when many of these activities have a sustainable aspect to them. Some common community services include community gardens, educational programs, and art and cultural experiences. Even a trip to a local park or group exercise programs. You get the idea. So no matter the activity or the service, the most sustainable aging in place strategy will always be a combination of home modifications and community support.
That's really interesting because it takes us to our last takeaway here, our last way forward. And, I'm going to spoil a little bit. We do actually have even a bonus one for you there too. So it's not just one, it's a couple. But this first takeaway, absolutely, there's an opportunity to capture share for sustainable and eco-friendly products for those currently aging in place and also those who are planning to do it in the future. But we need to think about how we make that benefit clear about more than just the planet, right? So we actually saw a trend like this, Lou, over the course of some research we did at Simon Myers here a few months ago on the luxury segment too. And we ended up calling that trend selfish sustainability. And I think that applies equally here as it did to our other segments here. Sustainability, it's a virtuous topic, but let's be frank, the evidence we've seen across study after study after study, you can't market altruism at the end of the day. People need to know what's in it for them. And any benefit to the planet, it's more of a bonus, right? So when we're developing marketing, when we're selling, when we're specifying product, we need to be able to address those personal benefits that a homeowner is going to get from that product or that service that we're offering. At least in aging in place here, financial responsibility, it's a long-term concern. So we can talk about dollar savings over time, or we can talk about the way that connects through to energy efficient products. Maybe there's less risk too from physical harm when they're going to change out light bulbs less often because they're incorporating LEDs, right? Even just this peace of mind of knowing that materials we're using are creating a healthier environment for us. A key is when the benefit hits home, that's what makes the investment easy.
Yeah, that's so true. Second, we have an opportunity to create unique connections back and even give back to our local communities, particularly for those who are aging in place. As we heard, it's about us getting out into the community with the demand for aging in place home modifications at the base camp of an explosive rise. The more we can all tap into that energy by serving that segment's need in our local communities, the better we'll all be for it.
Well, I don't know about you, but I think that takes us through those 5 and that one bonus to little way forward for aging in place and home improvement market. I'm just going to throw this up on the screen here for you to see each of these takeaways. Our focus on caregivers for smart home tech, our ability to center smartphones and tablet connectivity, speaking to those physical and emotional wellness benefits, educating on overlooked needs in particular, making sure that our partners are also equipped to educate on those needs, focusing on selfish sustainability, making sure we know what's in it for the person, and that bonus one, getting involved in local community aging in place support. Well, Lou, I think that's a wrap for us today on these trends. I hope all of you on the line have found some value in what we've presented today. I want to say thank you so much for joining us, giving us a little bit of your time to learn more about our 5 ways forward into aging in place. Lou and I are happy to stay on the line. I know we're right at about time here to chat for some questions, so feel free to put those in the Q&A. But more importantly, if you want to get in touch with us, maybe have a conversation about the implications of this research for your business, absolutely feel free to reach out to me. There's my email up on the screen for you, and it's there for whenever you need. So again, thank you so much for attending here. If you have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat here. And if not, then we'll wish you off to the rest of your day. I'll give everyone just a minute or so to see if there's a question that comes up. Such an interesting space to be dealing with, I think, as folks are wrestling through this. But I think for me, at least, it's that kind of explosive nature of the market that I'm really excited for. It's meeting critical needs, but at the same time, it's also providing a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, and applicable across so many areas.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Well, I think we've got most folks covered here. So again, thanks everybody so much for hopping on the line. We really appreciate your time. Feel free to reach out to us at Simon Myers if you have any questions, but otherwise we'll let you off to the rest of your Wednesday. Thanks so much and take care.